Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday, happy Monday, happy Monday.
Absolutely. It is certainly a happy Monday. That Monday seems to come around very quickly.
It's flying, man. It'll be March tomorrow.
Right. So the question today we always ask people is, how are you coming with those 2022 goals? Right? Or some of the folks that watch us and listen to us, how are you coming with your New Year's resolutions?
Yeah. Sure, there's some stories out there about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why you guys have to check us out on Coffee and Conversation. We're doing the first Saturdays of the month where we're talking about goal setting and how do you stay on track and why you can set goals instead of resolutions. So that's definitely something to stay on top of. But really take time to reflect on where you are with your goals and what you need to do to get better. And do you need to really make sure you've got a compelling vision that you're working off of? That's going to be one of the themes of our show today. I don't want to give away too much before we really get into it, but that's going to be one of the themes.
Don't give them too much. Don't give them too much, Eric.
No, I can't do that. I can't give it away. But this is going to be an awesome show, and I guess she's got an amazing story of how she got to where she is today. But before we go there, I think I should warn you, especially for those of you that are new to listening to us and watching us, this is not your everyday podcast. No, I don't think we warned Leah backstage, but we do things a little different here on the 30-Minute Hour. And certainly we've got quite a few watching us now on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Make sure that you're commenting in the comments section. Say hello. Get ready with your questions. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those usual places where you like to consume your podcasts. And don't forget, today is Motivational Monday. So make sure you tune into the What Now Movement Facebook page. That way you can get some motivation to keep yourself on track for the rest of the week. And by the way, don't forget to share the show.
Share the show. Share the show. Don't keep it to yourself. Share the show.
That's right. Our goal is to help you to laugh, to learn, and ultimately to level up. If you feel like we've done that for you, please make sure you share the show.
And if you don't feel like we share the show anyway. Share the show anyway. Just share it.
Just do us a favor. Just share it. We'll try to do that.
Give us a solid, right? Go and share it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay. So, Ted.
Yes, Eric.
I've got something that's on my mind.
Please share, Eric.
All right. So today I want to talk from the subject of how to generate 6 figures per month.
Whew. I know folk are listening in on that. Yeah.
Somebody just got closer to their computer.
Right. They were like, hold on.
We turn off everything that's going on in the background. I gotta hear this.
Everything. Y'all be quiet. I'm about to figure this out.
Go downstairs.
That's right.
But now we're going to talk about how to generate 6 figures per month. And several years ago, I used to mentor this young man. His name is Jerry. And he was just very resistant to my suggestion of creating a vision board. I kept telling him the science behind it, the power behind it, the whole thing about the reticular activating system. Leah, I gave him all of the details as to why it would be a good idea to start a vision board, do a vision board. He just wouldn't do it. But finally, after like about 3 weeks, he just did one. I think he just did it to get me off his back, just to get me to stop talking to him about doing a vision board. So he did it. And then several weeks later, he ended up changing careers. So we lost contact. But 2 years later, I received this message in my LinkedIn inbox. And it was from Jerry. And he says, Eric, thank you for pushing me so hard to do a vision board. I just wanted you to know that I've accomplished most of the things I put on the board. And remember that picture I placed of a house? I just wanted you to know that I just saved up enough money to buy my first home.
Wow.
So what does this have to do with generating 6 figures per month? Now that's the question. What does it really have to do with that?
Yeah.
Well, this is the part of the program we really need you to focus in, right? I get it. I know you like to listen to us as you're driving down the road. You may just want to pull over to the side of the road, maybe pull into a rest area or something. I know you like to be on the Peloton while you're listening to it. Just press pause on the Peloton right about now. So, Ted, is there anything else the good people need to do?
Put the ham sandwich down. I know no matter how good the sandwich is, you've been thinking about it all day. You got cheese, mayonnaise, and everything on it. Put it down right now. The store, it's about to get really good, so we need you to listen in.
Absolutely. So what does this have to do with generating 6 figures per month? Here's what it has to do with it. You ready?
Yes, sir.
The first step to doing it is viewing it.
Give them that again, Eric. Give them that again.
Let's say that again. So the first step to doing it is viewing it.
All right.
Very important. You have to see the vision. So your vision is to generate 6 figures per month. And as I guess I'll talk about, it helps if you can see it beforehand. And that's really a starting point to get you to where you need to be. And our guest today, she has something in common with Jerry in that she created a vision board a while back. I mean, she was like 13 years old. And it allowed her to view a glimpse of the life that she actually has now. And she started her business as a struggling side hustler, trying to find her direction as a 20-something living in the Big Apple. Today, she's an online business coach who's helped hundreds of her clients start and scale successful side hustles and businesses. She works with them to help their businesses generate 6 figures per month.
Say that again, Eric.
6 figures per month.
Well, listen up. Listen up.
Right. She's not coming here just talking theory. She's telling you what she knows because she's helped people to do it. And it has to be doable if other people are doing it. I just thought I'd put that out there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Leah Gervais.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show. It's certainly an honor to have you on. So I wanted to talk about.
I'm sorry. Can I say one thing, Eric? Because I'm trying. Your name on here.
Yeah.
Your daughter, I think, got you. You see what you?
Oh.
You didn't see what your name is listed as? That's Aaron Twiggs.
My name is listed.
So this is not Aaron Twiggs.
That's right.
She was doing a podcast. Did she do a show or something?
But she's an up-and-coming podcaster.
That's right.
Know about that.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So as we're talking, we'll be changing that. But thanks for telling the entire world about that. That's
right. That's right. I didn't want them to know.
All right. So Leah, welcome to the show. I wanted to go back a little bit, kind of give people perspective. Talk about how when you were 13 years old, you did this vision board and how that's impacted you even to this day.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So the story goes that when I was 13, I grew up in a small town in Colorado, and pretty much from the time I could talk, I knew I wanted to live in New York City. I was one of those small girls that did ballet and wanted to be on Broadway. And then as everyone sort of grew up and we went through middle and high school. Everyone kind of like got realistic about that. And I just never grew out of it. I never, ever, ever stopped wanting to live in New York. So when I was 13, I didn't know what a vision board was, and I didn't intentionally make one. What I asked for my birthday was a mural on my wall of the Manhattan skyline. And it was something that I had wanted for a long time, but my parents just didn't really want to put up in their house. And finally, for my birthday, they gave it to me. So my dad installed this, mural that he basically put on like wallpaper onto my wall of the New York City skyline. And I really believe that that was my very first vision of a vision board, because now I live in that, picture that I saw on and on every night before I was going to bed for years growing up. And my view is not too far away from the view that I had for so long. So I've never really questioned the power of visioning things since then. And I really believe in that Bob Proctor quote that if you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You can hold it in your mind. You can hold it in your hand.
Wow.
That is profound. So why is it? I'm sure you work with your clients on vision and vision boards. What's your perspective on why doing a vision board is so effective?
Well, I think that vision boards are a tool that taps into the sort of emotional side of the brain. And if you think of universal law and the universal law of both, well, this isn't technically a law, but if you think about the universal energies of masculine and feminine energy, I don't know if your viewers are familiar, but it's not about male versus female energy. It's sort of a yin and yang that we all have within us. Some have more masculine energy, some have more female or feminine energy, but we all need a balance of the two. And if you look at what they both represent, you can see how harmonious they are together. Masculine energy has a lot of logic and doing and thinking and planning and sort of doing things in really linear ways. Whereas more feminine energy is about feeling and being and sort of intuiting, listening to your intuition. And I think that feminine energy can be described very well or seen very well as water, and the power behind masculine energy, it would be closer to fire. So in our society, we tend to lean far too much on the masculine. And that's just because that is kind of more the definition of success that we've come to know. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, except we're missing part of us and the power that we have because we don't know about it. And so I think that visioning and vision boards and spending time, not just doing, not just, thinking and planning, but embodying and visioning and feeling what we want to happen really, really fuels your action in a way that a lot of us are missing. So you can sort of think of it, you can imagine that someone who's taking action just from a place of doing versus someone who's taking action from a place of doing and feeling the way that they want to feel as they achieve their results and feeling into the success, it's going to have a lot more fuel behind it. So I think that visioning and vision boards are just a way to tap into that in a really practical, digestible way, because I think that these concepts can sound very abstract to people and you don't always really know how to go about it. So I think that that's just a very bite-sized way that taps into that for everyone. It's not just about male versus female.
I've never heard it described that way as far as the masculine versus the feminine energy and the energy aspect. So thank you for
yeah, sure.
applying that level of clarity. So going to, when you were in college, you were at New York University.
Yeah.
What did you think that you were going to be when you were on campus at New York University?
A lawyer. I thought I was going to move to New York City and be a lawyer, a la, every sitcom that's ever been on about New York, like someone's a lawyer. So I thought that that's what I was going to move to New York and do and be. And that was sort of what I just thought I was meant to do. And I was really praised for that path. It's very impressive when you tell people that you want to go to law school. People know what to expect. They think it's great. There's a lot of ambition behind being a lawyer. It's sort of seen in high regard. So no one ever really pushed against me when I said I wanted to be a lawyer when I was younger and when I went to NYU. So that was my plan. I joined the Pre-Law Society. I didn't study political science because I never really wanted to be in politics as a lawyer. So I kind of studied more what I was interested in and what I thought I could eventually do with my law degree, but that was the plan.
So if you could go back to those days and talk to yourself from back then, knowing what you now know, what advice would you give to your younger self?
It's a great question. I don't think that I would change all that much about my path because I so believe in the dots always connecting when you look back. But I do think that now knowing that I was going to be an entrepreneur, and really for even just people in college at this point, the traditional career paths, so few people follow them. I shouldn't say so few people, but so many less people follow them than it used to be. And even if you don't become an entrepreneur, a lot of people end up working for startups or working for something a bit more innovative than the legal field or the medical field, or sort of these just very siloed, industries we've known for so long. So I'd really just say study what interests you and try to diversify your experience and your background and your education, because college isn't about training for a job. And I think that that's where a lot of people get it wrong. They think that they're learning how to do a job, but you learn how to do a job by doing the job, not by sitting in a classroom. So if I could go back, I think I would have just tried to, loosen the grip a little bit, definitely not put as much pressure on myself as I did, since I never ended up going to law school, and just tried to enjoy the experience, learning more, and pursuing what I was interested rather than what I think I should do, which is a huge theme that I'm sure you and a lot of your listeners talk about, doing what you want to do rather than what you think you need to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you thought you were going to be a lawyer. So what was the journey? How do you go from thinking you're going to be a lawyer to now having your own company?
So, excuse me, I graduated from NYU and I got a job as a paralegal at a real estate law firm here in the city. And I thought I had made it. I was like, this is great. I'm 22. I already have a job at a law firm. I'm going to go to law school. My life, I see it, it's all done. I never have to wonder again what path I'm on. How exciting. And so I ended up doing that paralegal job for about 2 years. And about a year in is when I started studying for the LSAT, and when I started applying to law schools and touring law schools and really getting that ball moving. And simultaneously, I started to feel uneasy about the whole thing. And I started really questioning if this was actually the path I wanted to go down. And I think that this was a mix of the work I was doing at my law firm not being bad per se, but something about it didn't really feel all that aligned. And a mix of sort of just my own inner voice telling me that something was off. But I hadn't really found the courage back then that I now have to listen to my intuition and to try to actually figure things out, even if they don't all match up. And so, So I hadn't really done that. And I just continued to go on with my law school adventure and just continued to move forward with that, because that's the path I was on. That was what I thought I was supposed to do. So I applied to law schools. I took the LSAT. I kept working there, and I eventually did get into law school. And at that point, I had gotten accepted into a few different law schools, and I had spent months trying to figure out which law school I was going to accept. I just couldn't figure out which one. And it's unlike me. I'm a pretty decisive person. But it wasn't until I was on the final day of the deadline, when the law schools required me to tell all of them which one I was going to enroll in, that I woke up and finally could not ignore the voice in my head anymore that was just saying, it's not about which law school you're going to go to. It's that you're not going to go. This isn't what you're meant to do. This isn't your path. And I was very afraid, because I had spent the last 6 years tens of thousands of dollars of debt to go to NYU to do this. And the only professional job I had at that point was in the legal field. So, looking back, it sounds a little melodramatic. I was only 24, and no one knows what they're doing with their life at 24 years old. But it was very real and very scary at the time, because I felt like I was going back to being 18 years old if I said no to this, and I didn't know what I was going to do instead. But I couldn't deny it any longer. So I did that. I said no. I started a then blog that was called Urban 20-something to kind of chronicle my journey out of confusion and out of that lost experience into hopefully finding guidance and a career path that did feel aligned, even though I didn't know what that was. And that blog, which was just something that I started for fun and out of this craving of community, turned into the business I now have.
So talk about that. I'm sorry, Ted, go ahead.
So your family and friends, when you said, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go this way, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do something different. Like, well, what did you hear from them?
My parents were supportive. I think that they were a little bit confused about what I was going to do instead, rightfully so, because I was confused. But, I think they knew at the end of it that I was young, and I think they would rather have me sort of experiment on that thing at a younger age. My friends, I definitely felt inferior toward, because I looked at my friends and I felt like they were all doing something with the degree that they had. I felt like they were all on a track that they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that was challenging, to feel like I was really setting myself back and starting over. And I envied them for looking like they had it, in my eyes, so much more together than I did.
Yeah.
I can now see that nearly every single one of them has changed fields since then. And so it's not about being ahead or being behind, or, it's just being where you're at. And I think that at this day and age, there's like changing what field you're in, or changing your focus doesn't mean you're moving backward. It often can mean you're moving forward. You're just doing it in a different way. So I didn't know that at the time. I didn't have the confidence to see it that way. But, I think people were supportive. Do I think people would have done it themselves? Probably not. It's one of those things where everyone's like, good for you. I would never do that, but good for you.
What is she thinking?
Yeah, exactly. But, it's not their job to see your vision for you. It's not your friend's job. It's not your family's job. It's no one's job but yours. And I wish more people understood that, because it can be very painful when your parents don't agree with your decisions, when your spouse doesn't agree with your decision. And I have a lot of sympathy for that. But at the end of the day, that's not their job. It's not their job to see that for you. You need to see it for yourself.
Yeah, I think you have to think about, they didn't get the vision. The vision was for you. They weren't given the vision, so you can't expect them to see something that they weren't given. But I could imagine you were hearing peer pressure, like, maybe get something that's more secure, do something more stable, more reliable. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people have thought that and been telling me that since, I quit my 9-to-5 job, since I started my business. I think some people still think that about me. Maybe not now, but for the first few years, definitely. And I think that the reframe that you can use when you are feeling bogged down by other people's opinions of how you should do things and how things should be done is to really ask yourself if the way that they're living and their approach to life is actually something you want to emulate and is something that you admire, because otherwise you're taking advice from people that you don't really want to end up like. And I think a lot of us do that, especially with family members. We love our family. It doesn't mean you need to dislike these people or think poorly of them. It just means that you're not following their lead because you don't want to go in that direction. And so I think that when you're hearing people kind of project these fears onto you, you just have to ask yourself, is this really who I want to be following? Is this really the direction I want to go in? And if it's not, why would I listen to that kind of feedback? And so I, had to really get aggressive with listening to people who were living out the way that I wanted to live, that were entrepreneurs or that were doing things differently. It was not lawyers. It was not people living in 9-to-5 jobs. That wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. So I had to just sort of take their advice with a grain of salt.
Yeah, there's a saying that don't take constructive criticism from someone who's not constructing anything.
Right.
Gotta be careful, And I think it's good that we're having this dialogue, because there are people that are watching us now who are in a similar position, where they're not feeling called to do that traditional corporate thing or the traditional path that they thought, and they're starting to hear the naysayers. So I'm glad this is coming up. Definitely wanted to take time to say hello to Kim Tucker, who's just commenting here in the comments section. We appreciate you. I see more people again logging on, so please make sure you're chiming in the comments section so we can recognize you. So Leah, I want to talk about this. You're a paralegal. You're making $50,000 a year, but then you go on to make $50,000 per month working for yourself. Talk to us about that. How did you make that transition?
Well, the first thing you have to do if you want to change your reality is, and if you want to change your income, is become the person who already lives out that income and already lives out the reality. So if I wanted to make $50,000 in a month, I needed to not be a paralegal anymore, because paralegals don't make $50,000 a month. So you first have to really start looking, not just like with labels, with like the occupation, and I need to be an entrepreneur, I need to have my own business, all that obviously was true and needed to happen for me. But it was also more internally who I needed to become. I needed to take bigger risks. I needed to do things that not everyone was willing to do. I needed to be willing to be embarrassed, to face rejection, to sell stuff that not everyone wanted, and that people would judge me for, and that people had their opinions on. I needed to be able to have confidence in a way that I hadn't. So that was the first move, was really starting to reevaluate who I was, how I was living, what I was spending my time doing, and, admit to myself that wasn't working anymore. And I think that if anyone is listening to this and wondering how you go from an income jump, and you're looking at your bank account or your income statements or your salary to answer that, you're looking in the wrong place. You have to look in between the temples, and you need to look in the mirror if you're really wondering. So that's the first step, is to examine who you are and what you're focusing on. And then from there, take the action that can lead that out. So for me, that looked like making this blog, not just a blog, but something that provided services and products, and something that had a scalable business model. That meant investing in my business, even though I didn't have money, and had to really get creative and take risks to do that. That meant quitting my job, even though that was scary and I didn't know if that would happen. That meant putting myself out there at the risk of people making fun of me. And guess what? They did. And I still made it on the other side and made it to $50,000 a month. So it's a lot of fear taking, risk taking. It's a lot of dealing with your fears. It's a lot of your fears coming true, and you realizing that you can handle it anyway.
Just a question just comes to mind, because there has to be a mindset shift, right? If you're going from, making what you were making in a year and a month. So what was your self-talk like? Like what? How did you talk to yourself during that time?
So the best thing I did was read The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite book ever of all time.
Mine too.
Yeah, it is such a masterpiece. Yeah. And I really embodied, or tried to embody, all the teachings in that as much as I could. So in the beginning, you almost feel like you're telling yourself little fibs, because you're saying there's no shortage of money, and you're like, my bank account has a shortage of money. So it can feel like, but I have $40 going to my name, and it can feel very, ridiculous almost. But you just have to continue to find the truth in what you believe. And there was so much about that book that was true to me. Maybe I didn't have all that money in my bank account, but I also didn't believe that we were meant to live in a world where we all struggle and we're all stressed about money, the way that we've almost accepted it to be normal. I just don't think that's how we're meant to live. And so I had to realize that if I believed that were true, that meant that I didn't need to live in that stressed out way. I didn't need to live in that shortage of way. There had to be a way. And so a lot of the mindset shifts I started living came after I read that book. But I do have to say that I think that the reason that book resonated with me so much was because it showed to me things I already knew in my heart to be true, but had never been able to either articulate or never felt brave enough to admit. And I find that that's how a lot of entrepreneurs are. They feel like they come into themselves in a new way, but it also feels like they're coming home to themselves. So, whatever kind of North Star you can find that helps you align with the fact that you don't need to be broke, you don't need to struggle, you don't need to only have one stream of income. I think most of us, whether it's from a religious standpoint where you would admit that you don't think God put us here to struggle, or whether it's from a universal standpoint or a subconscious standpoint where you really think that your mind is more powerful, you have to align with whatever is truest at your core and can help you see that there are different ways. And then from there, I think you can find support both through other people, mentors, coaches, as well as books, as well as yourself, to really do what it takes to start thinking in a different way.
Wow. So Leah, was there this one month that you just saw that you just killed it? You was like, man.
No. It was slow and hard and long. It feels fast now. I look back and it's like, yeah, my business hit $1 million in 5 years. We had our first $1 million year 5 years in. That looks amazing on paper.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, make no mistake. It was month after month feeling like I came up short. It was month after month not reaching my goals. It was month after month wondering why I wasn't making more, wondering why my business debt wasn't fully paid off yet, wondering why my launch didn't go the way as planned. You know, it was not an overnight thing, and it was not an easy thing, and it was it pushed every part of me. And then you look back after a few years and you're like, wow, I did that. But in the moment, it does not feel like it's fast, and in the moment, it does not feel like it's easy.
So your business, what exactly is it?
We do coaching, we do consulting, and we do courses to support entrepreneurs in their marketing and in their mindset.
Okay, because I just wanted to ask that question because I know there's some viewers out there that's like, man, what is she doing?
Like, what she's doing, I need to be doing that.
I need to be doing that. I need to be doing some coaching and some consulting and some workshops or something.
You should do stuff online. People that are watching should, because you have access to literally the entire world if you sell something online versus if you're doing something in person. So I think that that's a good takeaway.
So what does your ideal client look like? Typical client that you work with and that you help?
The people that find the most success with us are, on the surface, people that sell a service at least at first. I don't think that you need to sell a service in your business for forever. I obviously believe in scalability, but we do work with people that start with that before they do some sort of product or some sort of scalable model, like an event, like a book, like a podcast, etc. Don't do brick and mortar, don't do physical products for the most part. But then, you know, on the inside, it's people that are willing to change, willing to work hard, and have that certainty in them that there's no other thing that they could possibly do other than entrepreneurship, no matter how hard it gets. And I think that certainty is something that can be learned, something that you can decide to have. But if you don't have it, it will be very hard for you to find success, because you will spend way too much time and energy waffling back and forth between whether or not you're going to go back and get a 9-to-5 job, or whether or not this is actually going to work, or whether or not you're doing everything right. You have to kind of go into that with that attitude of, this is going to work. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how and, you know, in what way. But this is not an option anymore.
So you have to find out if you're actually built for this. Do you think everyone's built to be an entrepreneur?
I don't. I used to, but I don't. Do you?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I don't either.
No, I think some people want to, they want to make a lot of money, but they don't necessarily want to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Entrepreneurship is very glamorized, and it's not glamorous. Always. It can be. I recently saw a quote from Elon Musk, which I loved, where someone asked him what words of inspiration he has for entrepreneurs. And he said, if you need words of inspiration, don't do this. Yeah. If you need a pep talk, you're barking up the wrong tree, because it is like getting up every day and getting knocked down, and you have to pull yourself back up every single time.
And I hear people say, you're working on the weekend? You're not an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Any of that type of stuff where it's like you just can't see it being outside of a 9-to-5 box because you're an entrepreneur. It's like you just want to do it.
Right.
It's like a book that book that you just can't put down. Like you just keep picking it up and you just want to just continue to improve, and it's not really work.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So Leah, have you had to have that conversation with someone? Just to say, you know what? Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think you're built for this.
That's right.
I don't want to take your money, because honestly, I don't. Have you ever had to have that type of conversation with someone?
That's a great question. And the way I approach it isn't so much that I don't think you're ready for this or cut out for this. I don't think I'd ever say that to someone, because I think that has to come from within. I would never want someone to blame me for why they didn't go for things. I think that they need to find that answer internally. But I have said that I encourage you to take a serious look at if you really want to do this, because this is really what it takes. And if this isn't worth it to you, this might not be the path, and you should examine that. So I would never tell someone that I don't think they could do it, but I have encouraged them to really consider how bad they could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so What advice do you have for that person who's watching us now and they've got a side hustle and they want to make the same move you did and get to the point where they're making $50,000 or more per month? What advice do you have for that person?
Well, the first piece of advice I have is, like I said, become the person who already does that. And that person probably has a lot of certainty, probably doesn't spend a lot of time going back and forth between whether or not this is going to work or not, probably doesn't spend time dabbling, doesn't spend time questioning themselves, is really in full force mode. So really channel that sense of certainty and try to move forward that way. And then take the action from there. And if you don't have a mentor, you should get a mentor. It's not something that you're meant to do alone. And really ask yourself, as hard as it might sound, is there anything else you'd rather do? Like, is there any other way you can see your life going? And I think that that's really when entrepreneurs, if they're like, I guess I really don't care that much, then, that's an answer. But if it's like, at the end of the day, I could never look back on my life and not regret me not going for this. That really is all the answer you need. And I think people have a lot more power in them than they give themselves credit for.
Wow. And I tell Eric all the time, and I tell my team, I'm like, you have to feel like you're locked in a room and you got to get out.
Yeah, I love that.
That's got to be the mindset. If that's not the mindset that you have, then it's not for you. Got to figure it out.
I totally agree.
Shut down. Yeah.
So as we're talking about this, Ted brings up something interesting because I have some theories on this, right? We talk about this whole thing with the side hustle. I think part of the problem with some people is that they don't have to have it, right? So let's say, like I work with people who are in the government, and I tell Ted they're like a GS-75 in the government, right? They've got this good position, but they have a side hustle they want to do, but it's not like they have to do it. So you talk to them and you're like, hey, so did you start writing the book yet? Oh, no, I didn't get around to it. No, I didn't. Start the blog yet? Oh, no, I didn't. So talk to that. I think sometimes that could be the hindrance where your side hustle really isn't your plan A, it's more your plan B.
Well, and I think that, at the end of the day, that is everyone's prerogative. And if this is not a must for them, then they need to kind of have that conversation. For me, my business was a side hustle for 2 years. And during those 2 years, I did not have the sense of urgency that I eventually kicked into gear. It was a lot of maybe things will change, but maybe I'm not willing to. Maybe I can buy a discounted course from Udemy, and maybe that'll change something, and it didn't. And during those 2 years, I made a few $100s a month if I was lucky. And it wasn't until I really realized that I either needed to be in or out that I changed my mind. So if someone wants to do a side hustle for the love of the game, that is their prerogative and they can do it, but they should not kid themselves about it becoming a full-time hustle if they're not willing to do what it takes.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about like the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people, it's like, oh, what am I going to do? But the entrepreneurs, I mean, we figured it out before.
Yeah. You figure it out.
It's another dynamic. You just figure it out. I heard some people, Eric and I, talk about that, and they're like, "Oh man, I'm gonna really get this going. I'm gonna get these things moving once the pandemic is over."
Right, and it's like, what are you waiting for?
2 years later, it's not over yet. Right?
Oh, wait till things get back to normal.
You better keep a mask on. You better keep a mask somewhere close. Right? Put it on, take it off. Put it on, take it off. I mean,
Totally.
You still have to, figure out how you're gonna do it. No matter what's in front of you.
Right.
For sure. So you were talking about mentors and how important that is. Like, who are some of the key mentors that have helped you to get to where you are?
I think the one that most stands out to me that I've most looked up to is Bob Proctor, who recently passed away, sadly. But he didn't personally mentor me, but I've learned from a lot of the people that were personally mentored by him. And I'd say his philosophies are who have resonated with me the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got some great stuff.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot of his, it's timeless, the stuff he was talking. That was some of those things he said were years ago.
Yeah, and they still totally.
Yeah, actually, it still applies today. It's a principle. So
yeah,
that's good. And you bring up something interesting is that your mentor doesn't have to be somebody you talk to every day. It can be someone you read about or you listen to.
Well, I will say that I've spent a lot of money on coaches of his philosophy. I do think it's important to have someone like in the ringer with you, but it was kind of like his teachings that have, trickled down to various people and have taught me and guided me.
Good. And so tell us about one of your most memorable client success stories, somebody that you helped to get to that next level.
I don't even know how to pick one, but one that really stands out to me, one of my clients who made $1 million within a year of starting her side hustle. So she was really interested in politics, and she was making like $60,000 a year at a nursing home. And she was just like, I really want to do something different. I really want to do something that helps. So she started kind of doing a little bit of consulting and a little bit of field work and just sort of trying to grow this movement around things that she cared about. She did a lot of Black Lives Matter work. She did a lot of, just sort of progressive initiatives. And and she was her business grew to $1 million in the first year from doing that. And what I love about her story is how heart-centered it is. It wasn't like she did this by investment banking or some of these more traditional things that we think of are just so money centric. And for her to be able to have done this in a place that was so aligned, I think is such a good example, both of following your passion and recognizing that money can come with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it was all through her mindset. Once she decided she was going to do this, she did not look back at all. And I've really never seen anyone do it like her.
Wow. That's a great success story.
Yeah. She's amazing.
You all better get with Leah, boy. I'm telling you, Leah will get this thing moving for you. You better get with her. You better get with her.
I'll tell you. So tell us, Leah, tell us about something that was hard for you in business when you first started out that's still hard for you today.
Right.
Oh, God. Fear, the fear of failure, the mean comments that I used to be afraid of getting them. Now I get them. The mean emails that I used to be afraid of getting. Now I get them. The uncertainty of things, all of it is easier, but still hard because it just grows in scale. So at first I was afraid of not making my money back. Now I've made my money back and more, but I have employees and their livelihood on the line. So now it's like, if money doesn't go the way that I wanted it to, it used to be, I wouldn't make it back. Now it's like, oh, I have, huge responsibility. I could go on, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade any of these fears for any of it's all worth it to me is what I've learned, is that these fears don't go away and they're still worth it to me to have, the business that I do.
So Leah, what's your normal day like? When you wake up, what do you do? Give us a normal day, your routine.
It's such a weird answer right now because I have a 13-week-old. So my life has been very different than usual, but I am a big morning person. I like to work in the morning when I can. I also am a big exerciser. I do that as well. And I think getting outside really helps. I typically take client calls and team calls until about 2. I find that I'm not as great in the afternoon. Or I just like to do things a bit more introverted by then because I'm a little more tired. So I'll do things behind the scenes by then. And then I usually stop working at around 4 and spend time with my family.
Nice.
Yeah. Can't complain.
Nice.
So you're also, in addition to being this entrepreneur, you're the host of Your Biggest Vision podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So what will people gain by tuning in?
They'll gain, a lot of what we talked about in terms of cultivating your vision and tuning into that feminine energy part of the masculine hustle that I also love so much. But they'll also gain a very real and raw look at the behind the scenes of my life. And I almost felt a little bit like egotistical starting to talk about it so much, but I think it really helps people see that I'm a person and that I'm no different than them. And a lot of people want to have their own business and work for themselves and want to have their income raised, and they can. And this is what it looks like in the day-to-day. And so by that, I mean, I break down mistakes I made with launches or habits that have helped me or books I've liked reading that have really helped me and what helped. So I just try to be very transparent with my life in addition to, giving business tips.
That's interesting you say that. So you break down mistakes you've made in launches.
Yeah.
That's so. Why do you focus on the mistakes that you've made?
So other people don't make them.
Good.
That's a good answer.
That's a great answer.
Well, so you don't make them again.
Exactly.
I just think that's so important because you look at everybody's Facebook news feed. You know, everybody's kids making straight A's. Everything is perfect.
You got a new promotion. Everybody, you're winning. Everybody's winning all the time. Everybody's winning.
Right.
Totally.
Everybody got the new car.
No, you can't do that. You got to keep it real.
Right.
No, so I mean that's authentic. So definitely, I think that people need to, when you're not listening to the 30-minute hour podcast, I mean, you need to be listening to your biggest vision.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So what's next on the horizon for you?
I think that the future of business is just continuing to cultivate your own brand and your own story and making sure that you are your own biggest asset. And that is the same for me. So what that looks like for me is prioritizing motherhood as I'm a new mom and really leaning into and exploring what it looks like to both be a woman that has her own business and to be a mom at the same time. I'm obviously not the first woman to do it, and I feel so lucky that others have paved the way, but it's still far from the status quo. So really trying to be able to do both and stand up for the vision that I have, being able to do both, and sharing that and making sure people know that whether it's motherhood or entrepreneurship, or whatever their version of that is, it is possible, and you have to keep continuing to fight for it even when things get hard. So that's what my story looks like from a practical standpoint. All you entrepreneurs out there, lean into your story and tell your story. Personal branding isn't going anywhere.
I still want to go back to, earlier I asked about the family and friends, right? When you decided that you were going to, not go that legal track and you were going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how are they now that this is starting to, or this has taken off? I mean.
Yeah, a lot of people that I hadn't talked to in a long time, are clients of mine now, basically have ended up seeing and doing. Yeah, and they're interested.
Like, Leah, let's get together. Get together. I got an idea. No, that's great.
Yeah. It's if I can help them, I'm very flattered and happy to. So I'm sure not everyone has great opinions about what I've done because not everyone likes to see what other people do. But for the most part, I have, I feel very lucky that I had such good friends and such close family relations before I started this, because those haven't changed at all. And I still have that really supportive group of friends and family that have been with me through the good and the bad and believed in me when no one else did. And now, are still there for me and just are happy for my success when not everyone else is.
That's good. Eric and I are your friends too now.
I'm glad we're all in it together.
That's right.
Absolutely. And so we're going to go to the final part of our show. It's called Write This Down. And this is where we just leave everybody with that one closing thought to write down. It's to help the entrepreneurs to level up. So Leah, you are the guest of honor. What is your closing thought you want people to remember about this episode?
I want people to remember that if you're ever looking for the change you want to see in a Google search, in someone else, including your mom, who you might call, in a book, or anywhere else, to first look inside and to realize that what you're looking for, whether it's more money, clarity on your career, the next step in entrepreneurship, it's likely already something that you need to do. You might not know how. I want to make that clear. So maybe you want to make $50,000 in a month and you are going to look everywhere for a business plan on how to make $50,000 in a month. First, look inside and make sure that you actually believe you can do that and that you are going to do whatever it takes to do that, and that you have some ideas on how you would want to make that happen, and then take the action that you need. But so often we're always looking outside of ourselves for motivation, for answers, for inspiration, for certainty. And the only certainty you need to go for something big is the certainty that no matter what comes, you will be okay and you will make it through. And I think once you have that, the action you can take, not only will it be bigger, you'll take it faster, you'll also have more fun, and you'll really, really surprise yourself with how much you can accomplish.
Awesome. Write that down.
I'm supposed to follow that, Eric.
That's right.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This was incredible.
No, thank you so much. Our pleasure. You're a tough act to follow, Leah, but you know, one of the things I have said over the years, kind of a quote. It's like, some, dream of success and others wake up and make it happen. Right.
Tomorrow's the day.
That's it. You wake up and you make it happen, and you just start doing it, and then just be persistent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen, overnight. You just keep pushing forward, and everything that the success. I'm sure there were days when you were like, but then
For sure.
But then
all worth it.
Oh yeah. So I said, don't just dream about it. Wake up and make it happen.
Absolutely.
Wake up and make it happen. And so my around the horn piece just has to do with what we talked about earlier. If you're thinking that you're going to go from making $50,000 a year to $50,000 a month with a $50,000 a year mentality, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to understand there's a mindset shift that's required.
Absolutely.
Right? It's the books you're reading. We mentioned The Science of Getting Rich. It's networking with people who are also making $50,000 a month, so you notice their habits, routines, and rituals. But please don't underestimate the mental requirement for you to get to that next level. You can't get there with the same level of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been an awesome episode of 30 Minute Hour Podcast. We want to thank our guest, Leah Gervais. Leah, how can the people connect with you?
Thank you guys so much. You can find me at leahgervais.com or on Instagram at leahgervais_.
All right. Fantastic. Don't forget to share the show.
Share the show.
Exactly. Share the show. And you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, any of those other places. That's our show for this week. And then until next time, have a great one.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.